Wife's actions felt inappropriate, but she says she just asked to learn self-defense. Too long did not read. Wife seemed to get uncomfortably close with a regular at our bar and walked outside with him. She claimed she asked him to teach her self-defense. Second edit. Update. I talked with my wife just now. She had to leave to pick up her son. I explained just the fact of it. She actually said she didn't even connect the two, but it's frighteningly obvious now when she hears it. She said she feels stupid and apologized profusely. She promised to pay more attention to it. She said she wants to go back to make it clear, especially to him, that she isn't interested and is only interested in me. I'm glad I talked to her. I hope she is able to be more intentional in the future. Thank you everyone for your input. It helped me organize my thoughts and put it in a clear way that was fact-based and not emotionally charged. First edit. I would really appreciate some input from women on this one as well. I don't know if there is a perspective I'm missing. My wife, 44, and I, 42 per meter, go to a bar regularly that is a bit of a rougher place, but has karaoke and the people are friendly overall. Last night, one of the regulars was a little more friendly to us than normal. I chalked it up to a good mood, but my wife told me about half an hour into the night that he had come over to her several times already to tell her how beautiful she is. My view on this is that I wasn't worried and I'm not going to start anything because I trust my wife, and getting compliments could only make her feel good. So I let it be. An hour later my wife tells me that she wants to duet a song with me and asked me to listen to it on my phone, so I was doing that. I looked up and I see her standing very close to him, and it seemed to me like she was flirting with him. She whispers in his ear, he says something to her, and he starts walking outside and she follows. Obviously, this concerns me, so I give it a second and then head outside too. He is standing near a wall and she is standing close to him laughing. She says, "Are you sure?" He says go ahead, and she punches him in the stomach 3 times. She tells me that she asked him to teach her some self-defense. I don't want to act jealous, so I say okay and stand there for a bit. She punches him several more times. I feel awkward and head inside. I came out several more times and it seemed like they were just talking. She told me later that he was a high school wrestler, and he's been in fights, to which I reminded her that I was the captain of my school wrestling team and took several years of martial arts. She said that I never taught her and I said that she never asked. I left it there and moved on. She actually got very clingy to me after that and we ended up having sex when we got home. But I can't shake this uncomfortable feeling about it all. It's concerning partially for the obvious reasons, that it felt inappropriate. I wonder what her reaction would have been if I had entered a similar situation. But it's also concerning because this is a rough place, and her asking another guy to teach her how to punch implies that either I don't have the ability to defend myself or that she is asking this guy to do this to get closer to him. Don't get me wrong, I can defend myself, but I'm a firm believer in avoiding a fight if possible. I'm afraid this type of implication, especially towards a guy comfortable hitting on my wife, could lead to a certain amount of aggression I'd prefer to avoid. What I'm trying to figure out is several things. 1. How should I proceed with this situation? 2. What should I even say if I talk to her? 3. How do I approach this next weekend at the bar? She was flirting with him. She has access to home-made self-defense advice in you. This excuse is so poor it beggars belief. She set you a distracting task then rushed out to chat with him where there was a lot of playful contact. I think it is a well-known fact this type of contact, even playful taps as a response to banter, is an indicator of attraction. As to how you proceed, what would you advise your best friend who suspected inappropriate behavior from his partner? I will say one thing though, if you do nothing this will only embolden this behavior. Set firm boundaries. Going out privately with a man who was hitting on her was inappropriate, felt disrespectful to you. Did it feel, with their song, that she was flirting with him? You need to talk about your feelings and your boundaries. If you're sure they didn't see you, it does at least seem like they weren't hooking up. Yeah man, I'll be honest, that would all make me very uncomfortable as well. I wasn't there and I don't know other people's intentions, but all that would make me extremely uncomfortable for sure. If the shoe was on the other foot it would make her uncomfortable too. She was flirting. I'm a woman. I'd feel uncomfortable if my husband was doing that with a woman. I'd never go outside with another man and just leave my husband inside and be whispering in another man's ear. Nope. I think you tell her it made you uncomfortable and you considered it flirting and ask how she'd feel. Reading your edit, I don't buy it. That was her excuse because you called her out. If she wants to learn self-defense, she can take an actual class. She was flirting. My boyfriend defended my abuser. My ex was very abusive. Last night I opened up to my boyfriend about a bit of what happened. There was a lot of emotional abuse and manipulation. Today I was telling him about a horrible incident. My boyfriend said it's hard to believe he did that on purpose. I asked him not to defend my abuser. He said he wasn't. Then said it doesn't make sense that he did that on purpose. I blew up. I got very upset, and stormed out. I'm staying with a friend, and now I'm not sure if I should go back. Maybe some context would be helpful. I'm going to get roasted, but here goes. He said it's hard to believe he did that on purpose. There are so many ways to interpret this. 1. Like the op did. 2. Wow, he must be really crazy to do such a thing. 3. Seriously, do such people exist? Op feels point 1, and most here are addressing that there is a possibility that he could have thought options 2 or 3. But Op only knows his reaction and response, and being jaded with option 1 she might have burst out. I would strongly suggest to have a civilized conversation to understand this clearly. If he did mean option 1, he is the asshole here. But do speak. Godspeed. From the way you phrased his words it sounds like he was expressing his surprise that your ex did what he did on purpose. This is a major issue. It really says a lot about his level of respect for you and for women generally that his first go-to is to defend the abuser to the face of the victim. It shows his default response is to not believe the victim, and that generally ties into the type of mindset that rape victims must have been asking for it, or abused women were probably doing something to drive the abuser to it. It's a really misogynistic view. I'd be really angry about this if I were you, and as you seem to be. You're absolutely right to be furious, and I'd be rethinking the relationship also. Nope, as someone who is in an abusive relationship for over 6 years, this would be a deal-breaker for me. My husband did the opposite of what your, hopefully soon-to-be ex-boyfriend did when I opened up about my abuse, and that's one of the reasons I knew he was a keeper. Not once has he made excuses for my ex or in any way framed my experiences as being my fault or understandable from my ex's perspective. If he had, we wouldn't be married almost a decade with a fantastic kiddo we both adore because I would have clocked him as an unsafe person and moved on. This is a hill worth dying on. He wasn't defending your abuser. He, as a decent human being, literally can't imagine a man intentionally doing what he did to you on purpose. Having never been abused, his brain can't understand someone doing that because it's so horrible. I'm telling you this as an SAW and domestic violence survivor. It's not that he's downplaying it or invalidating what was done to you. He's just trying to wrap his brain around the fact that someone was intentionally that sick. It took me a long time in therapy to understand that. My boyfriend called me weird for driving to see him. I've been dating my boyfriend a few months now. He's an amazing man, but I haven't seen him in a month though because he's out of town for work. I wanted to see him though, so drove about 2 hours to have dinner a couple days ago. It went well, but at one point he mentioned how he thought it was weird I drove so far just to see him. I just laughed and told him I wouldn't anymore if that's what he wanted, which I meant as a joke, but he said it'd probably be best. I didn't know how to respond, so just changed topics. The thing is, he's the only person I really have, so I don't know if what I did is something you usually do in a relationship. I don't have much in the way of family, my friends are his family, and I've never been in a relationship before. So maybe it is weird, he definitely seemed to think so. We haven't talked much since either, and it's been 4 days, and I don't know if driving up made him uncomfortable or something. I felt bad since he said it, and I just wanted an outside opinion. Does he know he's your boyfriend? What a strange response from him, and quite unkind. Why would he not want to see you after so long? Maybe grant his wish and leave him to it. If you aren't really pleased to see each other at this early stage, I don't know how it gets better. You also know that he wouldn't make the effort to do the same for you if it was the other way round, and that speaks volumes. I'm not sure he's really that amazing. Take care. What's weird is that he is 2 hours away and hasn't gone to visit you over weekends. Honestly, with or without notice, this is a nice gesture. His response was way off base. I once had a girlfriend who lived 4 hours away. She drove up to see me completely randomly for a day. It was unexpected, but I was super happy to see her. You shouldn't feel bad at all, and his response strikes me as being a little too self-centered. Info. Did you call and ask, or did you just show up unannounced? This is a pretty important bit of information you've left out. Did you ask to visit, or did you tell him, or just turned up? My dad thinks I shouldn't have bodily autonomy. Is the relationship worth fixing? This is going to possibly be a bit ranty, but I'm genuinely so torn up about this and don't know what to think anymore. My 22F dad, 45M, has been my rock since I was a child. He helped me out of an abusive situation that my mom was involved in with my stepdad when I was about 15. But since then it's been very different. He showed a bad side to him, such as essentially making me wait till I'm bedridden sick until I can go to a drive, etc. After I finished HS, his girlfriend, 35 when she left, of about 15 years, left him. She and I were extremely close and it hurt a lot, but I respected her decision. But since then he essentially just became quiet and dove into his work. He worked from home and essentially left his room once a day to eat or go out to drink. We never did anything together as a family anymore. He started making comments about my weight at the time, about 54 kgs, 169 centimeters. Saying if I kept eating like this I'd look like my mother, and I wound up with bulimia. He doesn't know about it still. I started working a part-time job and my coworker started physically harassing and stalking me. When I told my boss, he told me to grow a pair of balls and put him in his place. I asked my dad for advice and he essentially said the same. I eventually quit because the pay wasn't worth it. Throughout about 2 years I had to essentially live like a maid, even with full-time university. I'd leave 5 a.m. and come back 5 p.m. to a house that was in ruins because he doesn't clean up after himself. He'd tell me to clean it because his friends were coming to visit. When COVID hit we moved in with his mother, 70s, who basically is his maid now. It's honestly horrible and I can't deal with how badly he treats her. Lately he's been getting more and more red pill, racist and homophobic. He'd say stuff like the Me Too movement being a way for women to punish men for saying hello to them. When I tried explaining why it made me feel less alone with the times I'd been sexually harassed, he dismissed it with, "Well, guys have issues too and we don't complain." This all brings us to the other night. He said he wants to go to America because of how progressive they are, and I said that that's not exactly true, seeing as they just turned half their population into incubators. He got angry and said that women need to take responsibility for their own actions and that the potential of the embryo was more important. I asked him about cases of rape and grooming and he said with rape it's unfortunate but an opportunity for the victim, and with grooming it's the minor's fault because she should know better. He said some more things along the lines of ectopic pregnancies being unfortunate casualties and some other things I don't remember. I just lost it. I've never done that before in my life, but I screamed at him and said it doesn't make sense that my own father thinks I should have no bodily autonomy, and just walked off. He followed me and said I'm full of shit and left. I just don't know what to do. He's a completely different person towards me now than he was when I was a child. I've been trying to fix the relationship since 2018, but I can't fix it if I don't even know if I did something wrong. He used to be so sweet and a light in my life when I was being abused at my mom's place. But I just don't know how I can fix this anymore. I don't know if I should. I'm sorry if this is just a textual of rant. I think I just need some advice. I'm not here to argue if women should have rights to their own bodies. I'm here to ask about my dad. Please respect that. If he was a friend of yours and not your father, would you put up with this bullshit? No. Don't drag yourself down and negatively impact your mental and physical health by trying to repair a relationship with a bigot who it sounds like does not positively impact your life at all. Surround yourself with people who do have a positive impact, and you can make your own family with them. Do not get tied up in the past. He had a duty to do well by you because he brought you into the world. You owe him nothing. Sometimes family just isn't worth it for the pain they chuck at you. Let him go to America. Stay where you are and live your life for you. If you are currently living with him and his mother, you need to leave that living situation. He sounds toxic and bitter. The best way to salvage a relationship like this is to get some distance and autonomy and set firm boundaries. I think that it's very difficult to have any sort of positive relationship with a person who thinks that you should not have bodily autonomy. An opportunity for the victim to do what? Some very good advice here. Your dad should have a full medical checkup. I know of more than one person whose personality flipped. Turns out they had a medical condition that they didn't know about. It may be worth a shot.